Well, here we are. Here I am, back yet again with another video for you here. And I think the title that I want to put on this one is Soul-to-Soul Connections, Chakra Development and Information. And I'm starting to come to the conclusion here that I should probably start an additional YouTube channel since I'm drifting away from the popular thing I was involved with, and I'm considering it. But before I do that, I want to make mention in this video that due to popular request, I have decided to have, I guess you could call it, periodically a period where I will be doing readings, and again, because people have asked me to kind of come out of retirement to do some. I guess they like my work. So I've decided to do, first of all, here a Christmas special. I will be doing half-hour readings, as I did in the past, and the information is back up on our website, twinflames.ca, and we are booking appointments for readings as of today, November the 14th, and we'll continue them up to Christmas, and then we'll see how it goes from there as to when I may do another batch or do another period where I'll do readings for people. Anyway, I just wanted to pass that on to you for those of you who are interested. I know some of my clients I've done in the past are on YouTube and probably would be looking forward to something like that. So I'll pass that on to you. Okay, now the information that I kind of wanted to get into here today was specifically on the chakras and what's been happening for a lot of people as of late. And I've done some checking with 5 or 6, yeah, 6 actually, of what I consider good, close personal contacts who are going through the evolutionary process at a very high vibration at this time, and who have the appropriate personality development to accompany along with it. And I want to mention something here before I get into this chakra information here. A lot of people seem to think that development of the chakras, the development of gifts, and all of the balance and everything else in life is the most important part of the spiritual awakening. In actual fact, to be quite honest with you, the most important part of spiritual awakening is development of the personality. And for the personality of the individual to develop, what happens is they have to get to the point where they're relatively free of all of their old belief systems and have learned how to be basically a co-creator in some way, shape, or form. They also have to be in a situation where they understand that as the evolutionary process continues and there are changes in the chakra system, changes in the endocrine system, there are going to be changes in their body physicals also, and all of this has to work together piece by piece. And one of the things that I've noticed in regards to some of these phases, there would seem to be some people who like to get in and tamper with or alter or modify what the evolutionary process is trying to do by getting their little pinky fingers in there and doing things that are going to accelerate the process or eliminate part of the process or do things that are going to expedite it in some way. I'd like to suggest to people here that going through the spiritual awakening, the spiritual process, for me has been a lifelong process. Just for a quick remember when, my Kundalini first activated when I was 36, and the chakra development started at that particular point in time, and it has been going on, and I'm now 72, so do the math. What's happened recently is the situation with the chakras is I started noticing about 4 or 5 years ago, because my personality actually reached a point where I was not being attached to a lot of the old things that I used to be attached to. It's kind of funny. I think one of the things that I've noticed that people really get attached to is they really get attached to just being here in the physical. You know, some people say they get attached to another person or whatever. But I think a lot of people forget that they actually are attached to being here in the physical. And that's one of the major attachments that people have, like it or not. Even doing things physically in a small, limited way, you still have to be attached to the physical. But to get to the point where you are part of this world, but not of this world, if I can put it that way, in your mental, emotional, and your spiritual body, indicates, from my perspective, very highly evolved chakra growth to the point at which I'm going to begin discussing with you. And it's this. The point at this particular point where a lot of us are, and I did mention this in a previous video, where what happens is as the heart center begins to expand and the person begins to grow, mature, and develop all of the personality traits. I'm talking about integrity, compassion, gentleness, sincerity, honesty, all of those aspects of personality. And those aspects of personality always, contain a frequency or a vibration to them. And as a person acquires them into their consciousness, they actually radiate that energy from them. And it can be sensed by other individuals out there who have learned how to discern. And it indicates a great deal of growth has taken place. But now specifically to get to the chakras, what I have been noticing lately, and first of all, like I said, it started a few years ago, about 4 or 5 for me, where I noticed a process where the lower chakras were beginning to shut down. Now, what I mean by shut down is become inactive in the way that they used to function, and I want to try to describe that to the best of my ability. There are other people that have gone through this process already, and what's happened now is a big majority of us are going through it, and it's manifesting, but I have some add-ons here that I want to put in because some of the people who have gone through the process already, from my observation, have missed a few pieces, and I've been fortunate enough to pick out some pieces that they've missed, and that's what I want to kind of do in this video without stepping on anybody's toes, hopefully. So what's happened is this. I'm an excellent feeler type of person. So when there's any kind of energetic movement or anything going on in my body, I am crystally clear aware of it. And what I noticed was that in the past, I used to be a very emotional person. And gradually over the last few years, I am less and less emotional. I'm not emotionally attached to things like I used to be. And I'm not talking just about people. I'm talking about things. You can get attached to your computer. You can get attached to your cell phone. You can get attached to anything that's material. You can even get attached to a pair of socks or an old pair of slippers. And we are very good at doing that and getting emotionally attached. And that's one of the major reasons why so many of us keep coming back, as it were, to keep redoing and redoing when we don't really need to redo it anymore. And it's time for us to bugger off and go to different dimensions and realities. But we keep coming back because we're attached to being here. And some of the people that we know in a particular group soul we've gotten attached to. So we keep coming back, and we don't really need to do that anymore. So what's happening with this chakra process that's happening is we're actually going to go home. And what's going to happen is this, as it's been, and I'll try to explain it this way, is during the course of time, I noticed that because, again, I'm a feeler, okay, and my symptoms will not exactly be the same as yours because everybody's chakra system is going to be a little bit different. We're not all going to be the same. I want to emphasize that point. So there's going to be variations here. So don't take me literally on what I'm saying. I'm just giving you a benchmark that you can compare yourself with and then let yourself unfold as it unfolds. Because I'm a feeler, I noticed periodically it happened the first few times in the spring of the year where I would get a very nauseous spinning sensation in the solar plexus area, which would go on for 3 or 4 weeks, sometimes even a couple of months. Correspondingly, I had a lot of problems with digestion, changes in the stomach, food intake, etc., etc. What has happened in the last little while, in conjunction with this, I would notice periodically that I would not feel any chakra movement in the upper part of the body. And what I mean by that is, in a lot of cases, when people open up at the heart center, they can feel a spin sensation, a rotation, a heat sensation, a heaviness in their chest. There's dozens of different kinds of symptoms. That's just baby steps. That's the beginning for a lot of people. And the beginning phase can actually take a decade or more as they go through the baby steps to what I call spiritual maturity, or developing the personality and the personality traits that will facilitate, by the observation of the higher self, the actual activation and the assimilation of some of the lower chakras. And I want to emphasize that point. Higher self will decide when there has been enough personality growth within an individual so that the process of assimilating the lower chakras and moving into a unified field of energy and a unified heart center in that perspective happens under that particular direction. So what I noticed was, in the last few years, as I mentioned, that spinning sensation had happened every year. Well, what's happened in the last little while, and it's now been 2 years since I've noticed this, is I do not feel, and I'm not bragging here, I'm just stating for information purposes here, I don't have hardly any activity in any of the chakras below the heart center. As a matter of fact, the solar plexus is completely shut down and it doesn't even function anymore. But I do want to add that the other chakras below that are also shutting down, and the only one that's still open a wee bit is the sacral. And the sacral, I believe, needs to be open a little at this point for me, because I'm still existing in a physical world. And I believe for a lot of other people, the sacral will stay open a little as they still exist in the physical world. Now, what happens is, people say, well, whoa, what happens if the chakras all shut down? What happened to all of the information and all of the expression that used to be expressed from it? Correspondingly, what I've also said in another video, which I'm going to repeat here, is what started to happen is I noticed that as the chakra of the solar plexus specifically I'm talking about here at the moment, because it's really the dominant chakra in a lot of people, and still is, in some cases, more dominant than heart center. Oh, just to add in, doing energy work over the years and actually training a lot of my practitioners in meridian energetic, they have noticed, and I have noticed, that 9 times out of 10, when you find a person who has an active heart center, you will also find a person who has a bigger solar plexus than a heart center chakra. This gives you indication of exactly where the person is. The idea is when the heart center gets bigger than the solar plexus, then we're making progress. And if it happens as a natural course of events, then we're really making progress with the individual. So what's happening is, as we're moving into multi-dimensional states of consciousness, the chakra system that we have, okay, some are still in a 7, some are in the 12, and the 12 chakra system has a great deal of function in this new system that is going to come into play, which I'm going to get into here at the moment. So the solar plexus chakra at this point, and I'm sticking to this one for a moment, what happens to all of the energy that used to be in there? I have always seen the solar plexus chakra as a vast reservoir of energy. But the problem is, it is, shall we say, downloaded, templated, polluted with a lot of, shall we say, illogical, dysfunctional, irrelevant, redundant patterns, vibrations, belief systems, innuendos, philosophies, religious indoctrination that has been used as an energy force to template the belief system of the etheric body. So what happened is the person goes through that purging, and that's what that nauseous feeling is about that people are getting. What's happening is all of the ingredients, if I can put it that way, are being filtered out of the system. And how are they being filtered out? What happens is, if you could see it, or you can feel it, some people can see and feel, most people can do one or the other real good. But for me, I would feel a stream of energy basically coming up from the solar plexus area, the area of the belly button, if you will, and I would feel it streaming up into the heart center chakra. And the heart center would get bigger, but it didn't spin anymore. It just was like a small, well, if you want, you could say it looked like a vagina, if you wish to put it in some way, because that's what it looked like. The heart womb, as some people like to call it, kind of thing. And it would just look like something like that, and then it would get bigger as it went along. And what I realized after, and don't laugh because I'm being very serious in this video here, okay? What would happen after a while is I would notice, and other people have verified this for me also, I would notice that I was not expressing my feelings about situations, innuendos, people, places, and circumstances in the way that I used to. It was different. I didn't seem to be emotionally attached to what other people get emotionally attached about. One of the things, I'll give you an example of emotionally attached, all right? Whenever you see a person go, oh my God, for some reason, whatever the circumstance around them, that's an emotion being expressed. Oh my God, all right? That's an emotional belief system being expressed from the solar plexus. It's a reaction to what's already been templated in there. So that same person going through the evolution that they're going through at this particular point, given the opportunity that they move in a direction that I'm talking about, would no longer respond that way. They would observe the experience or whatever it was that caused them the emotional release in the past, but they would feel it up here. Now, as this continued on as a stream of energy, first of all dealing with the emotional solar plexus area, what would happen is the heart center would expand. And also at the same time, what would take place is the individual would start to get access to what I call the 12 chakra system. The 12 chakra system, again, is a template. Because we're going through a very accelerated pace of evolution right now, the 12 chakra system does have importance and comes into play here, because it gives you access to what some people call higher energies, which are not really higher energies, energies we just haven't had access to for a while because we got stupid along the way. Now we're waking up kind of deal. So you've noticed in some countries. Anyway, getting back on topic here. So what happens is, with these changes comes changes in your personality. And what happens is, after the solar plexus begins to shut down, and I mean literally shut down, it closes off, what happens is then the next chakra down would be the one that would be the one to start deactivating or closing off or shutting down. The person would go through the experiences that are pertinent to that particular chakra, and the process would continue down to all four of the lower chakras. Leaving, as I said, in my case, the sacral open, because I have some time that I'm going to need here to finish what I'm going to do here in the physical, by definition. So that is exactly what is taking place, and I would suspect it's going to happen to some other people. Now, let me have a sip of coffee here. Black, no sugar, decaffeinated. Cup for one, colored white. Okay. So as this happens, what happens is the heart center now doesn't function the way at all. For me now, and I collaborated with a few other people that I consider to have the evolutionary process going in a proper direction with the appropriate personality development, is the chakra in the center of the chest, which some people now call the star chakra or whatever, becomes like a pillar of light or a pillar of energy. It basically will start from under the chin, and it will go right down in some cases to the groin area, almost to the tailbone, and it will just be a pillar of light within the individual in question. Now, what I want to mention here is this, and this is why I recommend people do not meddle with the process. And what I mean by meddle with the process is, a few years back, I think in 2006 or 2007, it was very popular for people to get their chakras removed, correspondingly by some individuals. And I think it's still kicking around a little bit. And I spent a whole day researching the process, and I came up with some pieces that were missing in regards to the information. Removing chakras is not necessary, and having someone remove them is not necessary either. And it's not going to speed up the process at all. People who think that their chakras have been removed are just instilling a belief system into the person that they have been. The chakras will not and cannot be tampered with by anyone, and it cannot be tampered with by yourself consciously through meditation or any kind of exercises. You would have to have the collaboration and the permission and actually the time span, and higher self will not allow it to happen till you correspondingly have one important component that has taken place. The development of the personality, which is what the people left out of the information that I researched. Correspondingly, another piece of information that's very important here. Many of you know, if you listen to any of the information that I've given you, that the development of the human personality or psyche, in my opinion, the most of it takes place during the time of puberty. During the time of puberty is when we're downloaded, templated with all of the hereditary genetics, functions, dysfunctions, creative abilities in our family bloodline, or whatever you want to call it. And what happens is, at the age of 18, 19, varies to some people, what happens is the endocrine system, which corresponds to the 7 chakra system, I might add, which is important, goes into a lock and load situation. At that point, the endocrine system secretes hormones in the body according to what's been downloaded. Now, we get to this point where we are now assimilating the energies of the lower chakras. Pay attention here, folks. We are assimilating the energy of the lower chakras up into this pillar of light type of chakra we have going in the middle of the chest. What does this have to do with the endocrine system? The endocrine system is still glands and ducts that are within the body. To make a point here, it is essential that bodily changes take place as one is going through this process. If you're going to go through this process, you need a vehicle. The vehicle is you. Once you get to the pillar of light, some people call this the emerald heart, some people call it half a dozen different names for it. I like pillar of light, or I also like the avatar heart. That's a male perspective of it. You can label it whatever you want. But when you are in this perspective, what happens is you now have access to what I call the potentials of the 12 chakra system that are still left, that are incorporated. In other words, if you want to, you can, how do I say this? We are learning to become co-creators, but we need this pillar of light in the center of the chest to find our true self, our true identity, who we really are. That's what we're becoming. Once we wake up to that particular point and have achieved the pillar of light in the center of the chest, then we're going to have access to our creative and creator ability. In order for that to happen, you have to have the development of personality take place that will keep you stable so you don't misuse or cause self-destruction in yourself and degenerate. Now, I want to go backwards in time here for a moment. There are many people out there who have said that at some point the human species had a falling down or a lowering of vibration. This is what I'm talking about. At this particular point, this is why higher self will not allow anyone to meddle with the chakra system and to take what is being done and start doing it at a conscious level or have someone else doing it for them, so we don't degenerate back in. And even as it is now, because of lifestyles, because of dysfunctional patterns, because of the templating that's gone into the solar plexus, many of you have probably noticed that the incidences of mental disorders on the planet have gone up like the bubonic plague. It's just rampant throughout our society. The direct result, because the evolutionary process is attempting to correct a situation, and people are not adapting. They're not changing. They're not doing what they need to do. People are doing what everybody else wants them to do, and they're not following the evolutionary process. My thing with this in the evolutionary process is very simple, and I'll be blunt. Don't fuck with Mother Nature, especially when you're doing the spiritual awakening at this particular point, and you're into this very sensitive thing. Now, back to the endocrine system for a moment. The endocrine system secretes hormones into the body. Many of you, I listen to you talk on Facebook, and I listen to you in YouTube. You talk about regenerating. Well, why do you regenerate? You have certain glands and ducts in the body that have the ability to secrete hormones in the body. That endocrine system must function in conjunction with the growth that is going on in the chakra system and the changes that are going on. So if some diddlehead figures that you're going to do some kind of chakra work on it and you're not going to have any long-term effects, you're kidding yourself. Because the endocrine system works in direct conjunction with this energy system and the chakra system that is taking on fold. Now, I don't want to make this too long. Are you interested? Okay, now, so getting to the next point that I wanted to talk about. Somebody gave me a piece of information, and I wanted to get into it here just for a few minutes because it is becoming important. Some of you may have noticed lately that what I've done is I did do a video where there was a meditation attached, and I asked people to focus their attention into the heart center chakra. What is also possible at this particular point is the upper chakras are still there. They're not shut down, but all of the energies can stream into this pillar of light chakra. But you can use any of those vortexes that you need. For example, there is a central part in the middle of the chest in that pillar of light that you can access. There is in the, what is the chakra? The, not the creative chakra, I call it the multi-dimensional chakra. It's the one between the throat and the heart center. And you can access that center, and that center is a focus of your consciousness. So what you need to do is to understand that you can take your imaginative faculty, or you can take your voice or your mental voice, and you can have it here. You can have it in the wishing well chakra just below the heart center. You can have it in the dimensional chakra in between the throat and the heart, or you can have it in the throat center. For example, if you're into the pillar of light type of energy pattern, keeping in mind all the energy is basically shut down from below, you can, if you want to talk, project, take your vibration to the throat area, and then actually you can visualize it and see it in the throat. You can do the same thing within the third eye in that particular perspective. Those four particularly you can do that with. So it's about discerning and using these abilities. Now, as you well know, this is going to take time to evolve and to develop. And I can assure you, anyone who starts to misuse any of these abilities will, to be quite honest with you, I'm not really concerned about them, because you don't really have to do anything, because they'll burn themselves out. And they will degenerate if they're being misused in any way, shape, or form. So that's the idea of the kind of scenario that I'm talking about. So as we go along, the last part that's going to take place is the changing of the physical body. And this is probably the most important part. Once you get to the point of the pillar of light type of scenario, you will reach a point where your digestive system and your reproductive system, which are two energy systems, as it were, will begin to radically change how they function in that perspective. There will be a situation where a great number of you will be participating less in the physical sexual type of scenario and participating more in the etheric, multidimensional, some people call it the astral planes type of sexual expression. And this is going to become more common. And then what happens after that is the physical body is going to start to lose its density, because you're becoming multidimensional. And some of you are going to start feeling as though you don't live here, anymore. You're everywhere else, and you're just here, and you're finding it very uncomfortable being in the physical body, in the physical density. This is where I'm at this particular point in time. I find it very tricky. I don't have a problem being here, but I'm having a problem navigating through the physical because there are so much and so many people who are still dense. I don't mean they're stupid. They're just dense in vibration, and I don't enjoy being around them all that much. So what I have to do is to control my lifestyle and my energy system that's pertinent to my well-being. Now, as more and more people do this, there is a positive outcome to this. Lifestyles, environments, and how we live our lives is going to change. Everybody wants to see change happening, but everybody doesn't understand that change cannot happen overnight because it has to happen in the general population, not just to the spiritual community. The spiritual community wants change, but in reality, in a lot of cases, all they want to do is, sit in some place and have tea with each other and gossip and chatter. That's not change. Change has to be reflected from the people who go through the change and then reflected throughout the population by what they have. For example, if you have a person who is basically at a certain point in the evolutionary process, they've developed the pillar of light as I'm talking about it, what happens is they become a messenger. Very simple. They begin to emanate that vibration, and they can, in actual fact, template other people by simply being in their presence when they're there. Now, if you have, say, thousands of people in the pillar of light type of situation, and they're scattered all over the planet, then you have an interesting scenario taking place. Now, I don't want to make this video too long here because there's a couple more that I want to do. But I'm going to just leave it here at this particular point, and people can, use the information, but understand that when you're going through this process and you get to the point where the chakras are beginning to shut down on their own, and like I said, I've had several people I've talked to on this process, and each and every one of them has developed the appropriate personality development, in my opinion. What happens is it is best to simply allow what changes are taking to place. Don't meddle with it, because you're dealing with a situation where the endocrine system, the body physical, the hormones in the body, and also the etheric body are being dramatically changed and going through a very, very finite, if I can use that word, process of evolution that doesn't need somebody fiddling with it. Leave it alone. Go with the flow of what's going on, as opposed to doing something that you think is going to speed the process up in that perspective. Hopefully, you enjoyed the video. And hopefully, I'll be here for quite a period of time to do lots more of them. Have a great day, everybody.